Alright guys, welcome back to another video of KingX.X coming to you guys with a brand new video, and today in this video we have the brand new CR-56 AMAX, which is pretty much the GALIL. And I'm gonna be honest, the GALIL is actually quite different in this game than I actually expected, rather than seeing how it used to look in previous Call of Duties, especially in the Black Ops series. I mean, take a look at this gun. It looks totally different than what you're usually used to seeing. There are a few attachments that make it look very similar, and you guys will see because I am running some of the attachments. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the class setup for this gun. But before we do, I do want to take a look at the stats, because this gun is actually very similar in how it feels to the Growl. And if you guys take a look at the stats in the middle, the stats aren't too much of a difference, to be honest. I mean, the damage is a little bit higher on the AMAX, but it's pretty similar to the Growl, and I definitely think people are really going to be using this weapon. But when we go to the attachments and go to the gunsmith, I am currently running for the barrel. I am running the XRK Zodiac S440. You get damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control. You lose ADS speed and movement speed. I'll talk more about the ADS speed on this gun later on, because I'm gonna be honest, the ADS speed is actually quite well on this gun, even when you're losing ADS speed, so do not worry about that. I'm not a big fan of the little bit longer barrel, honestly. There's not really a point, especially losing bullet velocity. I kind of notice that usually, so I kind of tend to stick away from that. I'm also running the very first stock, which is the FSS close quarter stock. There is another stock at the bottom, which pretty much does the same thing. But I'm not mistaken, you lose movement speed, so I definitely don't really recommend it. But ADS speed I'll definitely take. You lose aiming stability, but nothing too major there. I am also running the XRK CR-56 stippled wrap. You get ADS speed and sprint to fire speed. None of the other options are really too great, but the sprint to fire speed is definitely something that does help on this weapon, so definitely something to decide to run. I'm running the 45 round mags. You lose ADS speed and movement speed, but the gun has, I think, around 30 bullets inside the clip, so it's not too much, and I definitely think that 45 will definitely be better for this gun. Also going to the underbarrel, this one is kind of like personal preference at this point, because I was using the Merc foregrip, and I've also been using the Ranger foregrip. In the gameplay you guys are going to see, I am using the Ranger foregrip. You guys get recoil control, aiming stability, you lose aim walking movement speed and ADS speed. Same with this one, it's literally aim walking movement speed and aim down sight speed. I mean, it's literally either one. The gun does pretty good when it comes to hip fire, so I don't really think it's super necessary to run this, which is why I'm just going to stay with the Ranger foregrip, but that is completely personal preference. And that is the CR-56 AMAX, the class setup. I'm gonna be honest, I actually am a really big fan of this weapon. Like I said, it's very familiar to the Growl. You guys are definitely gonna notice something about that. And I honestly feel like this weapon might actually be probably one of the top two guns that are going to be used in this game, besides the Vector, which I'll talk more about later on in this video. But I do want to show you guys my perk setup as well. I'm not sure if it really matters to you guys, but I'm currently running my perk one as cold-blooded. I'm running Ghost and Amped. Usually Ghost is just mainly for the UAVs and heartbeat sensors, if anybody even uses them, besides when you're in Warzone. Cold-blooded, I definitely don't like when people are calling in VTOLs, and it just kind of gets annoying, or a sentry every occasional. So definitely running cold-blooded kind of helps out. Scavenger is definitely something that you can run though. I'm kind of a big fan of Scavenger, but for the sake of this class, I've been using cold-blooded. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk. Alright, let's talk a little bit about this weapon and the pros and cons to this weapon. There's not really many cons to this weapon at all. I don't think this weapon really does anything really bad on this gun, but I'm gonna be honest, the pros are definitely there. So for one, the iron sights are actually pretty good in my opinion. I actually really like iron sights on most weapons, so being able to run iron sights and not having to run a sight that's going to destroy your ADS speed is definitely always cool. I mean, this gun is literally a laser beam, which I'll talk more about that later on as well. This gun, it's crazy. I don't understand why the iron sights are so good on this gun and why it's just so good in general. I really have a feeling that it's going to be just like the Growl. It's pretty much going to be that little sleeper, and the next thing you know, everybody's going to start using it out of nowhere. That's pretty much how it's going to be. You unlock this gun at tier 31, so I wouldn't be surprised if not many people have it right now. I know a lot of people were calling me out in games for actually having this Growl already, so I thought it was actually hilarious. But this gun also has a decent ADS speed without attachments. I mentioned that earlier in the video. You really didn't need to add attachments that make your ADS speed quicker. It's pretty quick already. You guys can literally be aggressive with this weapon. This gun also has a fast fire rate, but it's very similar to the Growl. The fire rates are literally like neck and neck on this weapon, so it's definitely cool to see. There's also something with the damage. I feel like this gun is super strong. I mean, you guys are seeing this gameplay. I'm literally dropping people in probably like 2 or 3 shots. Now, at least that's kind of what it feels like. I'm not too sure if that really is accurate or not, but I definitely feel like this gun is super strong, and it's definitely going to be one of the top 1 and 2, maybe even 3 rifles in the entire game. Depends where you put the M4, because I think the Growl's probably the best right now, and then you probably have the GALIL, and then you have the M4, but you could probably switch the Growl and the GALIL. Both are really good. I think the headshot multiplier, which I did get quite a bit of headshots in this gameplay, and most of the time I am playing with this gun, I feel like it's almost literally instant death. I think it's probably like 2 shots to the head and it's just over for them, so that's really cool to see. Now let's go ahead and get into the cons, because I'm gonna be honest, there's really not many cons. So when you guys first pick up the bare naked version of the GALIL, it does have a little bit of recoil or kick. I'm not a big fan of that, which is kind of why I went with the whole Ranger stock, or the whole Ranger foregrip. But then again, I put on the XRK barrel, so it kind of made that literally an absolute laser beam, and there's no problems with recoil. Like, where you aim is where the bullet is going to go. It's a straight up laser beam. It's like the ray gun. Literally shoots ray gun bullets at people. But the other con that I did have, and I mentioned earlier, was the 30 round clip. I honestly just don't think 30 bullets is enough for a gun that has a decent fire rate like the Growl and the GALIL do in this game, so I definitely think that it was definitely needed for this class setup. But with that being said, guys, I don't really think there's much I could say else about this weapon. I do plan on making the Vector class setup video later on today, so be on the lookout in the next hour or so. You guys should be seeing a video on that. But with that being said, guys, make sure to like, subscribe, put on post notifications so you guys don't miss another video. I'll see you guys in my next video. I'm out. Peace.
She better than most. I need a palace, I need a horse. If you want gold, then I am the source. I need a crown, I need a sword. I got my team, we going to war. You